in the remote expanse of the Nevada desert, hidden beneath layers of security and secrecy. The military research facility known as Echo Point thrived in silence. Here, the nation's most elite Navy SEALs trained alongside their canine partners, forging bonds that transcended words. The facility was a labyrinth of high-tech labs, training grounds, and classified corridors, where every detail was guarded as fiercely as the soldiers themselves. Jack Harper was no stranger to this world. A decorated Navy SEAL with years of service under his belt, he had earned a reputation for unwavering dedication and tactical brilliance. But it was his partnership with Rex, a Belgian Malinois with keen intelligence and unmatched loyalty, that defined him. Rex was more than a service dog. He was a brother in arms, a silent guardian who had saved Jack's life on more than one occasion. Together, they were an unstoppable force, a testament to the power of trust and training. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to like and subscribe. And tell me, have you ever had a pet that was more than just an animal to you? What lengths would you go to for them? On a crisp morning that carried the faint scent of dust and ozone, Jack stood in the sprawling training yard, watching as Rex executed a flawless series of commands. The dog's muscles rippled under his sleek coat, eyes sharp and focused. Nearby, other SEALs observed, some whispering in admiration. Jack's chest swelled with pride. Rex was at the peak of his performance. But as the sun climbed higher, a sharp buzz from Jack's encrypted phone shattered the calm. The message was brief, coded in the facility's strictest protocol. Rex, reallocation, immediate, secure wing, do not interfere. Jack's brow furrowed. Orders like this were rare and always meant something serious. He exchanged a tense glance with Captain Reynolds, his commanding officer, who approached with a grave expression. "Harper," Reynolds said quietly, "Rex has been reassigned to a different unit. You're to stand down." Jack's heart skipped. "Reassigned? Why?" "Rex is in peak condition. He's critical to our team." Reynolds hesitated, then shook his head. "It's classified, Jack. You won't be involved. Just comply." Frustration simmered beneath Jack's calm exterior. "I need to know what's going on. Rex isn't just another asset. He's my partner." But Reynolds' eyes hardened. "Orders are orders. Drop it." Jack's instincts screamed that something was wrong, but the walls around Echo Point were impregnable, and questioning orders was dangerous. Still, the knot in his stomach tightened as he watched Rex being led away through a secure gate, his tail wagging but his eyes betraying unease. Days passed with no word. Jack's attempts to get information were met with silence or thinly veiled warnings. The facility operated like a well-oiled machine, indifferent to his growing dread. Then a whisper reached him. Rumors of experiments, of dogs subjected to testing far beyond their training. The thought was unthinkable. Rex wasn't a lab rat. He was family. Late one night, unable to sleep, Jack wandered the dimly lit corridors, his footsteps echoing against steel walls. He paused outside a wing marked Restricted Level Omega, an area even high-ranking officers rarely accessed. From within came faint, distressed sounds. Low whimpers mixed with mechanical beeps and the distant hum of equipment. His pulse quickened. Without thinking, Jack slipped through a side door left ajar, the sterile smell of antiseptic filling his nostrils. Inside, rows of cages lined the walls, each housing dogs with fearful eyes and trembling bodies. Some wore collars with sensors. Others had IV lines snaking into their veins. The sight was a nightmare. Then, through the haze of shock, Jack's gaze locked onto a familiar figure. In a cage near the back, Rex lay motionless, his coat matted and eyes glazed. A thin film of sweat clung to his brow, and tubes connected him to machines that beeped erratically. Jack's breath caught in his throat. "Rex," he whispered, voice cracking. The dog's ears twitched faintly, and for a brief moment, their eyes met. A silent plea for help. Before Jack could move, footsteps thundered down the corridor. A stern voice barked orders. "Security breach. Identify yourself." Panicking, Jack slipped back into the shadows, heart pounding. As guards flooded the hall, he vowed then and there that he would uncover the truth behind these experiments and bring Rex home, no matter the cost. But the facility's walls were thick with secrets, and Jack knew the path ahead would be perilous. The bond between man and dog, forged in fire and battle, was about to be tested like never before. The next morning, the sterile corridors of Echo Point felt colder than usual, as if the very walls were conspiring to suffocate Jack's hope. His mind churned with the images from the restricted wing, the cages, the machines, and most haunting of all, Rex's glazed eyes. He replayed that silent plea over and over, a knot tightening in his chest with every memory. Determined to confront the truth, Jack made his way to the briefing room, where Captain Reynolds awaited him, rigid and unreadable. The room was suffused with a faint scent of coffee and tension, the hum of fluorescent lights underscoring the gravity of the conversation to come. "Jack," Reynolds began, his voice low but firm, "you need to understand. What you saw isn't how it appears." Jack's jaw clenched. "Then explain it to me, because from where I'm standing, it looks like Rex is being used for experiments. Experiments that no dog should endure." Reynolds sighed, rubbing his temples as if the weight of the facility rested solely on his shoulders. "There are projects underway that require absolute secrecy. The dogs involved are part of advanced testing, biomedical enhancements, neurological studies, meant to improve performance in the field." Jack's eyes narrowed. "You're talking about human experimentation protocols applied to animals, and you expect me to accept that without question?" "Jack," Reynolds warned, "this isn't your fight. For your own career and safety, you need to drop it." But Jack could feel the walls closing in. The military had always demanded loyalty, but loyalty to what? To a system that betrayed its own? His voice dropped, edged with disbelief and anger. "Rex is my brother. I swore to protect him, not hand him over to these monsters." Reynolds' expression hardened. "You're treading on dangerous ground. I'm ordering you to cease all inquiries immediately." Jack stood his ground, the raw pain of helplessness fueling his resolve. "If Rex is suffering, I will find out. I won't let this go." Reynolds stepped closer, a shadow of menace in his eyes. "Then you leave me no choice. For your insubordination, you're suspended pending investigation. And if you persist, you'll face court-martial." The threat hung heavy in the air, but Jack's spirit did not waver. As Reynolds turned and left the room, Jack's mind raced, already plotting his next move. Back in his quarters, the isolation felt suffocating. Jack ran his fingers over Rex's collar, now locked away in the facility's darkest recesses. Memories of their missions flooded in. The silent signals, the shared victories, the unspoken understanding that had saved his life more times than he could count. How could they allow that bond to be broken and twisted into something so cruel? His thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime on his encrypted phone. A message from an unknown sender. "Meet me at the east perimeter at 2200. Come alone. I have information about Rex." Jack's pulse quickened. It was a risk, but the chance to learn more was too vital to ignore. That night, under the cloak of darkness, Jack slipped past the main gates, his military training guiding every step. The desert air was sharp and cold, stars scattered like distant promises overhead. At the east perimeter, a figure emerged from the shadows. A woman, clad in tactical gear, eyes fierce yet wary. "I'm Sarah," she whispered. "Former medic here. I've seen what they're doing to the dogs. It's worse than you think." Jack's gaze sharpened. "How do you know? Why help me?" Sarah's jaw tightened. "Because I couldn't stand by. They're running a covert project, testing biochemical agents and neuroenhancements on service dogs. The goal is to create super soldiers, but the cost is horrific. Dogs like Rex are suffering, some dying." Jack swallowed hard. "Have you seen Rex?" Sarah nodded grimly. "He's alive, but barely. They're pushing him to the brink with experimental procedures. I have medical records, proof of what they're doing." She handed him a small flash drive. Jack plugged it into his tablet, scrolling through images of blood work, scans, and notes written in clinical jargon. The evidence was damning. Trials that disregarded ethics, animals subjected to pain and trauma masked as research. "We need to expose this," Sarah said, her voice urgent. "But it won't be easy. The higher-ups have eyes everywhere. You'll be marked as a traitor." Jack clenched his fists, fury and determination burning in his veins. "I don't care. Rex is my responsibility. I won't let him become a casualty of their ambition." Over the following days, Jack attempted to raise the alarm through official channels, but each inquiry was met with silence or veiled threats. His commanding officers distanced themselves, refusing to acknowledge the existence of the experiments. The facility's culture of secrecy was a fortress, and Jack found himself isolated, branded as a troublemaker. The psychological toll weighed heavily. Nights were restless, haunted by visions of Rex enduring unbearable pain in cold, clinical rooms. By day, Jack wrestled with a growing sense of betrayal, not just by the military, but by the very institution he had sworn to serve. Unable to bear the silence, he reached out to a trusted confidant within the SEAL community, Lieutenant Marcus Fields, hoping for an ally. But Marcus's response was cautious, his voice tinged with fear. "Jack, I want to help, but you're playing with fire. You're risking everything, your career, your freedom. You have to be careful." Jack's answer was resolute. "Some risks are worth taking. Rex needs me." Despite the growing pressure, Jack refused to back down. He began documenting everything: conversations, observations, the medical data Sarah provided, building a case that could not be ignored. Yet every step forward was met with resistance, as Echo Point security tightened around him like a noose. One evening, as Jack returned to his quarters, he found a note slipped under his door. The words were chillingly simple: "Stop digging, or you'll be next." Fear flickered, but it was quickly drowned by resolve. The threat only confirmed that he was onto something dangerous and true. As the days blurred, Jack's sense of helplessness deepened. Rex's condition was deteriorating, and Jack was powerless to intervene openly. The weight of betrayal pressed down, but beneath it all burned a fierce determination. He would find a way to save Rex, no matter what it took. His world had shifted from one of honor and duty to a shadowy battle against corruption and cruelty. The lines between friend and foe blurred, and Jack realized that to protect the bond he cherished most, he might have to become the very thing he despised: a rogue. But for Rex, for their unbreakable loyalty, Jack was ready to cross any line. The hum of the night was broken only by the faint rustle of desert wind as Jack sat alone in the dim light of his quarters, the flash drive's data glowing softly on his tablet. Rows of medical charts and photos of Rex, gaunt and tethered to machines, filled the screen. Each image was a silent scream, a brutal testament to the cruelty hidden beneath Echo Point's pristine surface. Jack's fingers traced the outline of Rex's collar lying on the desk, a tangible reminder of the dog who had saved his life more times than he could count. The weight of helplessness threatened to crush him, but beneath it burned a fierce resolve. He could no longer wait for permission or clearance. Rex was suffering, and Jack was the only one who could save him. Early the next morning, Jack reached out to Sarah again, the former medic who had risked everything to reveal the truth. Their meeting was clandestine, set in a deserted corner of an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. The air was thick with dust and the scent of rust, but to Jack, it was a sanctuary away from the suffocating walls of Echo Point. "You sure about this?" Sarah asked, her eyes scanning the shadows. "Once you start down this road, there's no turning back." Jack nodded, steeling himself. "I have to. Rex isn't just a dog. He's family. And those experiments, they're wrong. I'm going to bring this to light." Sarah slid a worn satchel across the table, heavy with equipment. "I've gathered what I could, medical records, research files, even some security layouts. But you'll need more than that. You'll need gear, intel, and someone who knows the system inside out." Jack's gaze sharpened. "You've got someone in mind?" Sarah hesitated, then nodded. "There's a guy, Skip, a tech wizard, ex-military. Quiet, keeps to himself. But he hates what's happening here as much as we do. He can help you get the data out, and maybe even get Rex out." The name resonated with Jack's instincts. Technology had always been a double-edged sword in military operations, but in this fight, it could be the key to exposing the truth. Over the next few days, Jack and Sarah worked in secret, piecing together the fragments of the facility's darkest secrets. Security protocols, guard rotations, and lab schematics formed a fragile map of the fortress they would have to breach. Each new detail added fuel to Jack's determination and increased the risk. When the time came to meet Skip, Jack found him holed up in a cramped, cluttered apartment filled with monitors and wires tangled like wild vines. The man was lean, with sharp eyes that flicked up from the screens as Jack entered. "You're Harper," Skip said without looking up. "Heard about your little problem." Jack didn't flinch. "I need to get into Echo Point's secure servers. I want to expose the experiments on the dogs. I need to find Rex and get him out." Skip finally raised his eyes, assessing Jack with a mix of skepticism and respect. "You're playing a dangerous game. If they catch you, it won't just be you in trouble." Jack's voice was steady, resolute. "Then I'll take that risk." After a long silence, Skip nodded. "All right, I'll help. But you have to move fast. They're ramping up security after your little incident." Together, they crafted a plan, one that balanced precision with the unpredictable chaos of breaking into a top-secret military facility. Skip worked on hacking into the internal network, aiming to extract information and disable security measures. Jack would use his training to navigate the physical defenses, locate Rex, and get him out alive. As the operation took shape, Jack's mental and physical preparation intensified. He worked out relentlessly, running drills in the dead of night, sharpening every skill honed over years of service. His mind replayed every possible scenario, escape routes, contingencies, even the worst-case outcomes. Failure was not an option. Meanwhile, Sarah continued to provide medical insight, teaching Jack how to administer emergency care to Rex once he was free. The knowledge was grim. Rex's condition was fragile, and any delay could cost him his life. One evening, as they gathered around a worn table littered with maps and devices, Sarah's voice broke the tension. "Time's running out. They're planning another round of tests on Rex soon. If we don't act before then, it might be too late. Jack clenched his fists. Then we move at dawn. The hours before the mission were a blur of nervous energy and silent prayers. Jack packed his gear: compact weapons, medical supplies, communication devices, all carefully selected for stealth and efficiency. He slipped into his tactical suit, the familiar weight a comfort amid the uncertainty. Sarah and Skip provided the final intelligence updates, their faces etched with determination and worry. The stakes had never been higher. As Jack approached Echo Point under the cover of early morning shadows, the facility loomed ahead, cold, impenetrable, a fortress of secrets. Every step forward was a gamble, every breath a silent vow. Inside, the sterile corridors awaited, but Jack's mind was elsewhere, on Rex, on the bond they shared, on the promise that he would not leave his partner behind. The plan was clear: infiltrate the restricted wing, find Rex, and escape before the alarm sounded. But Echo Point was a labyrinth, and the shadows held more than just silence. They held danger, betrayal, and the echoes of countless secrets. Jack's heart pounded as he slipped through vents and avoided patrols, each moment a test of skill and nerve. The deeper he ventured, the more the reality of the experiments revealed itself. Rooms filled with cages, dogs in various states of distress, the cold efficiency of machines administering pain and testing limits. Finally, he reached the lab where Rex was held. The door was guarded by biometric locks and surveillance cameras, but Skip's hacking skills worked like a ghost, disabling the systems just long enough for Jack to enter. Inside, Rex lay on a cold metal table, tethered and weak, his eyes flickering with recognition as Jack approached. The dog's breathing was labored, but the spark of life still burned within. "Rex," Jack whispered, voice thick with emotion. "I'm here. I'm getting you out." As Jack worked quickly to free him, the distant sound of alarms began to wail, a countdown to chaos. Time was slipping away, and every second mattered. Jack's hands trembled as he administered the emergency medication Sarah had provided, hoping to stabilize Rex long enough for their escape. With Rex finally free, Jack moved with calculated urgency, navigating the maze of corridors as security forces closed in. The facility was no longer just a place of training. It was a battleground. And Jack was fighting not only for Rex's life, but for the truth that needed to be unleashed. Every step forward was a battle against time, against the system that sought to silence him, and against the shadow of betrayal that had taken hold within the military. But Jack's resolve was unshakable. For Rex, for loyalty, for justice. The mission had begun, and there was no turning back. The echo of distant alarms reverberated through the sterile corridors of Echo Point as Jack Harper clutched Rex tightly, the dog's labored breathing a fragile thread between life and death. His heart pounded, not just from exertion, but from the rising tide of danger closing in around them. The sterile, clinical world he had once trusted was unraveling before his eyes, revealing a web of corruption and cruelty that ran far deeper than he had imagined. Every shadow seemed to conceal a threat. Security teams were mobilizing with ruthless efficiency, their footsteps pounding like a relentless drumbeat in the narrow halls. Jack's military training kicked in, every sense heightened, every movement calculated to avoid detection. But the facility was a fortress designed to trap intruders, and escape would not be simple. As Jack moved through the labyrinth of corridors, a chilling realization settled over him. This was no ordinary research project. The experiments on the dogs were part of a covert program, sanctioned at the highest levels, designed to test biochemical agents and neuroenhancements with little regard for ethics or life. The files Sarah had uncovered hinted at dangerous drug trials and weaponized enhancements, all cloaked in secrecy and denial. Suddenly, a voice crackled over Jack's comms. Skip's voice, tense and urgent. "Jack, listen up. You've got maybe 5 minutes before the lockdown initiates. Security teams are converging on your location. You need to move now." Jack's eyes flicked to the intersection ahead. 2 heavily armed guards patrolled the corridor, their pace steady, expressions unreadable behind tactical visors. He pressed Rex closer, feeling the dog's weak pulse beneath his palm, and weighed his options. A direct confrontation would be suicide. Drawing on years of stealth training, Jack slipped into the shadows, timing his movements with precision. As the guards passed, he darted into a service hatch, descending into a maintenance tunnel that smelled of grease and neglect. The narrow passage was a claustrophobic maze, but it offered a route away from the main security sweep. The walls seemed to close in as Jack navigated the darkness, every step a test of nerve. Behind him, the alarms screamed like banshees, a soundtrack to the chaos erupting within the facility. Somewhere nearby, dogs whimpered in cages, their suffering a cruel reminder of what was at stake. Emerging from the tunnel, Jack found himself in a restricted laboratory. The room was filled with rows of tanks and experimental equipment, illuminated by harsh fluorescent lights. Screens displayed data streams, vital signs, chemical compositions, neurological scans, all evidence of the unethical trials being conducted. At the center of the room stood Dr. Evelyn Cross, the lead scientist overseeing the program. Her expression was cold and calculating as she monitored the data, seemingly unfazed by the turmoil outside. Jack's eyes locked onto her, fury igniting within. "You're the one responsible for this," he growled, his voice low and deadly. Dr. Cross turned slowly, a faint smile curling her lips. "Captain Harper, I wondered when you'd show up. You're a persistent one. What you're doing to these dogs, this isn't science. It's torture." She shrugged, her gaze steely. "Progress demands sacrifice. These enhancements will save lives in the field. The cost is unfortunate but necessary." Jack's fists clenched. "You call this progress? You're playing God with lives that don't belong to you." Her smile faded, replaced by a hard edge. "You don't understand the bigger picture. Our work is vital to national security." Jack stepped forward, voice rising. "At what cost? Rex is dying because of you." Dr. Cross's eyes flickered, a hint of something unreadable passing through them. "Rex is a remarkable subject. His resilience is why he was chosen. But I admit, the latest trials have pushed him to his limits." Before Jack could respond, the room's security system activated, locking the doors with a metallic clang. The cold voice of the facility's AI echoed through the speakers. "Unauthorized personnel detected. Security lockdown initiated." Jack's mind raced. They were trapped, and time was slipping away. "Why are you doing this?" he demanded, voice strained. Dr. Cross's gaze hardened. "Because the future of warfare is changing, Captain. We're creating soldiers who can endure what humans cannot. And Rex is the key." Jack's jaw tightened. "Not on my watch." With a sudden surge, he lunged forward, grabbing the scientist's arm and twisting it behind her back. Dr. Cross struggled, but Jack's grip was unyielding. "Tell me where they keep the antidotes for those drugs," he demanded. "If Rex is going to survive, I need to get him treated." Her breath hitched, but after a tense moment, she spoke. "In the medical wing. But you won't make it there alive." Jack shoved her aside and sprinted toward the exit, Rex cradled against his chest. The alarm system blared, red lights flashing in a relentless strobe. The facility was descending into chaos. As Jack navigated the corridors, he encountered squads of security forces, their weapons trained on him. gunfire erupted, the sharp cracks echoing off steel walls. Jack moved with lethal precision, evading bullets and returning fire with calculated bursts. In the crossfire, Jack's comms crackled to life. "Jack, the extraction point is compromised," Skip warned. "They've sealed the perimeter. You'll have to find an alternate route." Jack gritted his teeth. On it. The facility was a maze of danger, but Jack's training and instincts guided him. He ducked into a ventilation shaft, crawling through the tight space as bullets ricocheted nearby. The scent of burning circuitry filled his nostrils as systems began to fail under the strain of the lockdown. Finally, he emerged near the medical wing. The door was locked, but Skip's hacking skills disabled the security panel, allowing Jack to slip inside. The medical wing was a sterile sanctuary amid the chaos. Jack laid Rex down gently on a bed, his hands trembling as he administered the antidotes and supportive medications Sarah had provided. The dog's breathing slowly steadied, and Jack allowed himself a brief moment of hope. But there was no time to rest. The sounds of pursuit drew nearer, footsteps pounding like thunder. Jack grabbed Rex, hoisting him into his arms once more. "Almost there, buddy," Jack whispered. "Hold on." With the facility in lockdown and security forces closing in, Jack knew the most dangerous part of the mission was still ahead. The line between survival and capture was razor thin, but surrender was not an option. For Rex, for justice, for the truth that could not be silenced. The desert night wrapped around the outskirts of Echo Point like a shroud. As Jack Harper slipped through the shadows, Rex cradled carefully in his arms. Every breath the dog took was shallow but steady, a fragile lifeline that Jack vowed to protect. The facility's lockdown had thrown the entire perimeter into chaos, with searchlights slicing through the darkness and security patrols combing every inch of the sprawling compound. Jack's military training had prepared him for countless hostile environments. But this mission was unlike any he had faced before. He wasn't just fighting for his own survival. He was fighting for Rex's life, for the truth buried beneath layers of deception, and for a cause that transcended orders and protocol. Ahead, the faint glow of a makeshift encampment flickered, a hidden safe house where a small group of insiders and activists had gathered, united by a shared determination to expose the unethical experiments. Jack had arranged to meet them here, hoping their combined efforts could tip the scales. As he approached, a figure stepped from the shadows. Sarah, her face etched with concern, but resolute. Behind her, two others emerged. Marcus, Jack's cautious but loyal SEAL confidant, and a young woman with a camera slung over her shoulder, Leanie, a seasoned investigative journalist known for her fearless exposés. "Jack," Sarah breathed, rushing forward to assess Rex's condition. "He's barely holding on. We need to get him to a vet fast." Jack nodded, handing over the dog with a mix of relief and urgency. "How's the security perimeter?" Marcus shook his head grimly. "Tighter than ever. Echo Point's throwing everything they've got at us. The military's reputation is on the line, and they're desperate to contain this." Lena stepped forward, her eyes sharp. "I've got contacts outside, media outlets ready to broadcast whatever proof we can get. But we need evidence that can't be dismissed." Jack's mind raced. The medical files, security footage, and data Skip had extracted were valuable, but the facility's influence ran deep. They needed something undeniable, something that would spark public outrage and force accountability. Sarah spoke up. "I can help with that. I've been secretly documenting procedures, gathering testimonies from others who've witnessed the experiments. If we can get that out, it'll be impossible for them to cover up." Jack's jaw tightened. Then we make a plan. We expose everything, every corrupt official, every inhumane trial. The group worked swiftly, pooling resources and expertise. Skip coordinated remotely, hacking into secure networks to uncover additional files and disable tracking systems. Lena prepared her equipment, ready to capture first-hand accounts and any physical proof they could find. But time was against them. Echo Point's security forces were mobilizing for a crackdown, and the facility's leadership was scrambling to control the narrative. As night deepened, Jack's thoughts drifted back to Rex, resting in Sarah's care. The dog's resilience was astonishing, but the road to recovery would be long and uncertain. Jack knew that even if they succeeded in exposing the truth, Rex's scars, both visible and invisible, would remain. Suddenly, an encrypted message buzzed on Jack's phone. It was from an anonymous whistleblower within the military hierarchy, a high-ranking officer who had grown disillusioned with the project. "I have information that can bring this down," the message read. "Meet at the old airstrip in 30 minutes. Alone." Jack's pulse quickened. Trust was scarce, but this could be the breakthrough they needed. He shared the message with the group. "This could be our chance, but it's risky." Marcus nodded. "You have to go. We'll hold here and keep working." Jack slipped into the night, moving swiftly toward the airstrip. The moon cast pale light over cracked tarmac and abandoned hangars, a ghostly reminder of forgotten missions. As he waited, a figure emerged, tall, shadowed, cautious. The whistleblower revealed himself as Colonel Bennett, a man whose reputation had once been untouchable. "Jack," Bennett said quietly, "you're right to expose this. The experiments are a stain on everything we stand for. I've collected documents, recorded conversations, but I'm not safe here. I need your help to get this to the right hands." Jack's eyes searched Bennett's face, weighing the sincerity. "Why come forward now?" Bennett's voice was heavy with regret. "Because I couldn't live with the lies anymore. They promised breakthroughs, but all I saw was suffering. Dogs broken, soldiers betrayed." Jack nodded. "We'll get this out, but we have to be careful. Echo Point will come after us hard." Bennett handed over a secure drive, thick with evidence. "This is everything. Contracts, test results, orders from above." Jack slipped the drive into his pocket. "Thank you. We'll make sure the world knows." Back at the safe house, the mood was tense but energized. The group worked through the night, uploading files, preparing statements, and coordinating with media outlets. Every click was a strike against the fortress of silence. But as dawn approached, the sound of engines shattered the fragile calm. Echo Point's forces had found them. "Get ready," Marcus warned, loading his weapon. "This isn't over." Jack's gaze hardened. The fight to save Rex had become a battle to dismantle a corrupt system. Allies were scarce, enemies numerous, but surrender was not an option. As security forces closed in, Jack steeled himself for the next move. The mission was far from over, but with every ally gained and every secret revealed, the walls around Echo Point began to crumble. For Rex, for justice, for the truth that refused to be silenced. The sterile fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting harsh shadows across the cold metal tables and gleaming instruments of the Echo Point laboratory. Jack Harper moved with practiced stealth, every step measured and silent. The air was thick with the sterile scent of antiseptic and the low hum of machines monitoring vital signs. Somewhere beyond the reinforced glass, the facility's security forces were tightening their grip. But Jack's focus was singular: finding Rex. His eyes scanned the room, settling on a cage near the far wall. Inside, Rex lay curled and frail, his once powerful frame diminished by the cruel experiments. Tubes and wires snaked into his limbs and torso, feeding chemicals and monitoring his failing organs. Despite the dog's weakened state, the familiar flicker of recognition sparked when their eyes met. "Rex," Jack whispered, voice cracking with emotion. "I'm here. We're getting out of this hellhole." Rex lifted his head weakly, tail twitching in a faint but hopeful sign. Jack's heart clenched. This was the dog who had saved him more times than he could count, now reduced to a shadow of himself. As Jack approached, the room's security systems suddenly buzzed to life. An automated voice echoed coldly through the lab. "Unauthorized access detected. Initiating lockdown protocol." Jack's mind raced. They were running out of time. Suddenly, the door hissed open, and Dr. Evelyn Cross stepped inside, her expression unreadable but her eyes sharp and calculating. "Captain Harper," she said smoothly, "I see you found Rex." Jack rose, placing his body protectively between the dog and the scientist. "Let him go, Cross. This isn't science. It's cruelty." She smiled thinly. "You misunderstand. Rex is the key to a new era of military capability. The enhancements we're testing will save countless lives." Jack shook his head. "At what cost? You're torturing animals, betraying the very ideals you claim to serve." Cross's gaze hardened. "Sacrifices are necessary for progress." Before Jack could respond, the lab's security doors slammed shut, sealing them inside. The temperature dropped, and vents whirred as a noxious gas began to fill the room. Jack's eyes darted to the control panel. Cross had triggered a trap. "Think carefully, Captain," she said coldly. "Stay, and you can witness the future unfold. Resist, and you'll die here." Jack's mind raced. He grabbed a nearby cloth and pressed it to his mouth, signaling Rex to do the same. The dog coughed weakly, but obeyed. Time was slipping away. "Where are the other dogs?" Jack demanded, struggling to keep his voice steady. "How many have you sacrificed?" Cross's eyes flickered with a hint of doubt. "More than you know, but their pain is not in vain." Jack's resolve hardened. "Not while I'm here." With a swift motion, he yanked a metal rod from a nearby table and smashed the control panel, cutting off the gas flow. The room's atmosphere slowly cleared, and Cross's expression shifted from triumph to alarm. "Security!" she barked into her comm. "Intruder containment breach." Jack grabbed Rex, supporting the dog's fragile frame. "We're leaving." As they moved toward the exit, a squad of armed guards burst through the side door, weapons raised. Jack's military instincts took over. He fired precise shots, disabling 2 guards before the third ducked behind cover and returned fire. Jack pressed Rex against his chest, moving swiftly. "Cover me!" he shouted over the gunfire. From the shadows, Sarah and Marcus appeared, flanking Jack and providing suppressive fire. The team fought with practiced efficiency, their movements synchronized in a deadly dance amid the chaos. The path to the exit was blocked, but Jack's eyes caught sight of an emergency escape hatch near the ceiling. He pulled a compact grappling hook from his belt and fired it, the line catching securely. "Up," he urged, lifting Rex carefully. One by one, they climbed into the narrow shaft, the sounds of gunfire and shouts fading behind them. The tunnel was tight and dark, but it led them away from the nightmare they were escaping. As they emerged outside, the desert night greeted them with cold silence. Jack laid Rex gently on the ground, checking the dog's vital signs. Despite the trauma, there was a spark of life, a fragile hope. Sarah knelt beside Rex, administering emergency care. He's stable, for now, but without proper treatment, he won't last long. Jack looked out toward the distant lights of the facility, their glow a harsh reminder of the battle ahead. We need to get him to a vet, fast. Marcus nodded. I've arranged a safe house nearby. Once Rex is stable, we can plan our next move. Jack's mind raced. The evidence they had gathered was damning, but the fight to expose the experiments was just beginning. The military's corruption ran deep, and Echo Point's leaders would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. But for now, the priority was clear: save Rex and prepare for the war to come. As the team moved swiftly into the desert night, Jack felt a flicker of hope amid the darkness. The mission had shifted, from rescue to reckoning, and he was ready for the fight. The night air was thick with tension as Jack Harper cradled Rex in his arms, the dog's breathing shallow but steady. The safe house, a nondescript cabin nestled deep in the Nevada wilderness, was a fragile sanctuary amid the storm that raged beyond its wall. Outside, the world seemed indifferent. But inside, a war was being waged. A battle to expose truth, seek justice, and save a life hanging by a thread. Jack's hands trembled slightly as he checked Rex's vitals, the dog's eyes fluttering open briefly, offering a faint glimmer of recognition. The bond between them was unbreakable, forged through years of missions and shared dangers. Now, that bond was tested in the crucible of survival. Sarah worked tirelessly, her medical expertise a lifeline. She administered fluids and medications with practiced care, soothing Rex's trembling body. Marcus stood guard by the door, his eyes sharp, scanning the darkness beyond for any sign of pursuit. Lena, the journalist, hunched over her laptop, preparing the files and footage they had gathered. A digital arsenal aimed at shattering the military's carefully constructed facade. Jack's phone buzzed softly. A secure message from Skip, the tech expert who had been their unseen ally throughout the ordeal. Uploading now? Once live, this will blow Echo Ainsnow point wide open. Jack's heart pounded. The evidence was damning. Videos of the experiments, internal communications, medical reports, and testimonies. It was a digital bombshell, and once unleashed, the ramifications would ripple through the military and beyond. But even as hope flickered, danger loomed. The facility's leadership was mobilizing, desperate to contain the fallout. Jack knew they had little time. Suddenly, the cabin's door rattled violently. Marcus sprang forward, weapon drawn. "They've found us." Shouts and the harsh clatter of boots echoed through the night. Jack's mind raced, escape routes, contingencies, the fragile life in his arms. "Get ready," he urged the team. "We move on my signal." The attackers breached the perimeter, flooding the clearing with armed men clad in tactical gear. The firefight erupted, a cacophony of gunfire, shouts, and the acrid smell of smoke. Jack fired with precision, covering Sarah as she packed medical supplies. Lena grabbed her camera, capturing every moment of the assault, her determination unwavering. Amid the chaos, Jack spotted a narrow path leading into the dense brush. "This way," he shouted, pushing through the undergrowth with Rex secured against his chest. The team followed, disappearing into the shadows of the desert night. The sounds of pursuit faded, replaced by the steady rhythm of their escape. Hours later, breathless and battered, they reached a secluded rendezvous point. A black unmarked vehicle waited, its engine humming softly. Skip was already inside, ready to whisk them away to safety. As the vehicle sped into the night, Jack allowed himself a moment to breathe. Rex stirred weakly, eyes meeting Jack's with a flicker of trust. The dog was alive, and for now, that was enough. Skip's voice crackled over the comms. "The files are live. The world knows." Jack's gaze hardened. The battle was far from over. Military investigations would follow, cover-ups attempted, and powerful enemies mobilized. But the tide had turned. In the days that followed, news outlets exploded with stories of the secret experiments at Echo Point. Public outrage surged, demanding accountability and justice. The military was forced to respond, launching internal investigations and suspending key personnel. Jack watched the unfolding storm with a mixture of relief and resolve. Rex's recovery was slow but steady, the dog's spirit unbroken even as his body healed. Yet, beneath the surface, the fight continued. Whispers of deeper conspiracies and hidden agendas hinted at battles still to come. Jack knew one truth above all. Loyalty was a bond worth fighting for, no matter the cost. As he sat beside Rex, watching the first light of dawn filter through the window, Jack vowed to stand as guardian, not just for his partner, but for the countless others silenced by secrecy and fear. The mission had changed, from rescue to reckoning. And Jack Harper was ready to face whatever came next. The morning sun filtered softly through the blinds of the small clinic room where Rex lay resting, his chest rising and falling with a steadiness that felt like a fragile victory. Jack Harper sat beside him, his eyes never leaving his loyal companion. The months of relentless struggle, the dangerous missions, the exposure of the dark secrets buried within Echo Point, all had led to this moment of cautious hope. Outside, the world was shifting. The viral evidence that Jack and his allies had released had ignited a firestorm of public outrage. Military investigations were underway, echoing with the calls for accountability and justice. The once untouchable hierarchy of Echo Point was unraveling under the weight of its own corruption. Jack's phone buzzed with messages from contacts across the military and media, some supportive, others wary. The path ahead was uncertain, but the tide had undeniably turned. A knock at the door drew Jack's attention. Dr. Sarah Mitchell stepped inside, her expression a mix of relief and determination. "Rex is stable today. The treatments are working." Jack nodded, a faint smile breaking through his usually stoic demeanor. "He's a fighter." Sarah pulled up a chair and sat beside him. "The military has officially shut down the experimental program. Several high-ranking officers have been suspended pending further investigation." Jack's eyes darkened. "Good, but it's just the beginning. The damage done can't be undone overnight." Sarah agreed. "There's more to uncover. Contracts, hidden reports, the true extent of the program's reach. But with the public watching, the pressure is on." Jack leaned back, the weight of responsibility settling over him. His rogue actions, once a liability, were now being recognized as necessary, even heroic. The line between obedience and morality had blurred, and Jack had chosen the latter. As Rex stirred, lifting his head to meet Jack's gaze, a profound sense of gratitude washed over him. This dog, more than any mission or medal, was the reason he had fought so fiercely. Later that day, Jack received a call from Commander Reynolds. The tone was strained but respectful. "Harper, the Navy wants to reinstate you. Your actions have brought to light issues we can no longer ignore." Jack's response was measured. "I'm ready to serve, but only if transparency and ethics are prioritized." A pause, then Reynolds nodded. "Agreed. We need people like you." In the following weeks, Jack worked closely with investigators and legal teams, providing testimony and helping to dismantle the remnants of the corrupt program. The media spotlight followed, shining a harsh light on practices once hidden in darkness. Rex's recovery continued steadily. Physical therapy sessions replaced medical emergencies, and the dog's strength returned, though the scars, both physical and emotional, remained. Jack was there every step of the way, their bond deepening with renewed purpose. One afternoon, as they walked through a quiet park near the clinic, Jack reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The betrayals, the battles, the sacrifices. The fight to save Rex had become a crusade for justice, a testament to loyalty that refused to be broken. A young girl approached cautiously, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Is he a soldier dog?" Jack smiled, kneeling beside Rex. "He's a hero. More than that, he's family." The girl smiled back, reaching out to pet Rex gently. As Jack watched them, a sense of peace settled over him. The path ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, hope was tangible. He vowed to continue advocating for the ethical treatment of service animals and to ensure that what happened at Echo Point would never be repeated. The scars of the past would remain, but so would the promise of a better future. And together, Jack and Rex would face it. Stronger, united, and unyielding. The sun hung low over the horizon, casting a warm golden glow across the quiet training grounds, where Jack Harper and Rex moved together with a grace born of years of trust and resilience. The desert air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of sagebrush and earth, a reminder of the long road they had traveled and the battles they had won. Rex, now stronger and more vibrant than anyone had dared hope, trotted beside Jack, his eyes bright and alert. The scars from the cruel experiments remained, faint reminders etched into muscle and memory. But they did not define him. He was a survivor, a warrior reborn. Jack paused, kneeling beside Rex as the dog's tail swept the dust. "You've come a long way, partner," he murmured, fingers tracing the familiar contours of Rex's face. "We both have." Their bond, tested in the crucible of betrayal and pain, had emerged unbreakable. For Jack, Rex was more than a service dog. He was a symbol of loyalty, courage, and the unyielding spirit that refused to be broken. In the months since the exposure of Echo Point's dark secrets, the tides had shifted. The military's experimental program was dismantled, and those responsible faced consequences. Jack's actions had been vindicated, his rogue mission recognized as an act of honorable defiance. He was reinstated with full honors, his record cleared, and his place among the SEALs restored. But Jack's mission had evolved beyond the battlefield. He had become a fierce advocate for the ethical treatment of service animals, speaking out against abuses and pushing for transparency within military programs. His voice carried weight, his story a beacon for those who believed in justice, no matter how entrenched the opposition. As they walked, Jack reflected on the promises he had made. To Rex, to himself, and to the countless others who had suffered in silence. The scars of their journey were still present, but so was the hope for a better future. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps approached. Sophia Brown, a local artist and longtime supporter of animal rights, emerged from the shadows, a camera in hand and a smile that held both warmth and determination. "I've been following your story," she said softly. "Your fight has inspired so many, including me." Jack nodded, appreciating the connection forged through shared purpose. "It's not over yet. There's still work to be done." Sophia stepped forward, kneeling to pet Rex gently. "He's a hero. You both are." Jack's gaze softened. "He saved my life as much as I saved his." Together, they stood under the vast sky, united by a common goal and a bond that transcended words. In the distance, the first stars began to twinkle, heralding the promise of new beginnings. Jack and Rex, side by side, faced the horizon with unwavering resolve. Their journey was far from over, but the past no longer held them captive. They had reclaimed their future, stronger, wiser, and bound by a loyalty that would endure for a lifetime. As they strode forward, the desert breeze whispered a quiet truth. Courage is born in the face of darkness, and loyalty is the light that guides the way home.